I think it's really important that people see my father's work because he was so prolific, because he went through so many different stages in his artwork. And the photo-realism stage that he spent the 80s and 90s perfecting is really incredible. And in my opinion, I don't think there are too many artists that could equal his skill or his precision and at the same time convey sort of a depth of emotion and feeling. He was able to do all of those things in combination in his work. So I think if people can come into this space and see his work, then they will feel his energy and his spirit. And I think he would be so pleased to know that his work is being shown, is being seen, and that people are appreciating it. He wanted to be remembered as a great artist, and I believe he was and is a great artist, that his work will live on beyond, his lifetime. So my hope is that people will appreciate his work and that it will outlast, him and hopefully me. This gallery was always his studio, and I remember coming here as a young child, and it looked much different back then. It was very much an artist space. It was kind of cluttered, and there was paint all over, and I can still remember the smell of the oil paints. And there was a back room that had a very unique feel to it, where he stored a lot of his materials. So my early memories of this space, it looked much different than it does now. So all of that changed because he suffered a fire in 1979. And I was home, I was getting ready to go to school, and the phone rang, and my mom was on the phone, and she said, "Go and get your dad. We think that his studio's on fire." So I remember running into the bathroom when my dad was taking a shower, and he rushed out of the shower and out the door, and that was the beginning of a long period of difficulty for him, because he lost his life's work at that point. He had all of his paintings from the late 50s, the 60s, all the way into the 70s, and all of it was lost at that point. That was a huge blow to him, to lose his studio and all of his work, you can imagine. So it was a difficult time for him after that. So this building here was rebuilt in 1983, following the fire in 1979. So the fire started in an adjacent building, and it spread throughout the block and destroyed a number of businesses. At first, he was just devastated. You can imagine all the time and effort and love that he had put into all of his artwork, and he had been exhibiting quite prominently. He had just finished a show in Palm Springs, and he was really on the cusp of wide success and recognition as an artist. And then that fire occurred. So you can imagine the way he felt. He was just devastated. He had lost all of his work, except what was hanging in our house and a few pieces that he had sold over the years. But the bulk of his work was gone. Had luckily kept quite an extensive catalog of Kodachrome slides. So all of his paintings he had taken slides of. And so in 1983, we had the grand, or he called it the not so grand reopening of the studio. We had a big party here when this building was brand new in 1983 after it had been rebuilt. And he started by using a slide projector. He started to repaint some of the paintings that had been lost. So as a kid, our home was full of art. It was full of my dad's paintings. It was full of my mom's ceramics and sculptures, and also my grandmother's watercolors. So when my dad would be nearing the completion of a painting, he'd bring it home and in his Datsun wagon, and he'd place it on the fireplace in the hearth, and he would always solicit my mom's opinion. He'd always ask her what she thought of what he was working on. And she, being an artist as well, would critique his work and give him some objective type criticism so he could improve. So my parents were both artists, and my grandmother was also a watercolorist. So I was surrounded by artwork, and it was just a great way to grow up. And so even my grandparents, I would go to visit my grandfather in Iowa, and he had all of my grandmother's watercolors all over his house, my dad's mom. So she was really the inspiration for my father becoming an artist to begin with, and back in Iowa. And he originally wanted to become a doctor, and he started along the course of pre-med at the University of Iowa, and he decided at some point that he wanted to become an artist. So then he went on to get his bachelor's in fine arts, and then he went and got his master's along with my mom at the University of Georgia. And they came to California in about 1954, I believe, and started to build a life out here. And he worked for the telephone company for a number of years, and he didn't enjoy that too much, but he went back to school and then became a teacher. So that allowed him to paint at night. So he would teach all day, and then he'd come down here and he'd paint from 10 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then he'd get up, go to work at 7 o'clock the next morning. He required very little sleep. He only slept about 4 to 5 hours a night his whole life. It's just growing up on a farm, he had to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to milk cows, and so that was just his constitution, the way his body was set up. He got up early, and he stayed up really late, and he always painted. In summertime, he was down here every day painting. And so he would come down to the beach in the afternoons after he'd spent the mornings painting and hang out with my mom. So a lot of great memories of my dad. He was a very kind, loving father, an outstanding artist, a wonderful man, and a great teacher as well. So he was many different things, and my parents had a lot of friends in the art community and the education community, fellow teachers. They had lifelong friends, and our house was always full of people and laughter, and it was a great childhood.
He captured some of the time period when Long Beach was changing from old sleepy Navy town to what it's becoming now. They were tearing down the old buildings and the old hotels, some of which it's really kind of sorry to see that they'd left, but I think that's kind of the motivation for the Historical Society and some of the laws that are in place now. But he was capturing those. He would go down and get the buildings half torn down. The one on I can't remember the name of it now, but I think you still have it here. Then the gallery space is the one that was on the corner of Pine and Ocean. That's just now still a vacant lot. But he had captured some of those older buildings in the process of their destruction, or in capturing them before they got destroyed. So it was, for me, it was really an opportunity to highlight him and to highlight the transition of where Long Beach was probably going to go, which kind of gave everybody kind of mixed feelings, and Rod as well. And then when I came here a couple times, and then I saw his earlier pieces where he was doing the minimalistic, I don't want to say pop, but kind of in that same period, the geometric pieces that kind of trick the eye as far as making your eye move and move your eye around the piece, that were just fantastic. Just fantastic. He's a highly gifted painter. And Long Beach was kind of, it was a different place. Let's just say it was it was still considered Iowa by the sea at that point, which is interestingly enough where he was from. His landscapes that he did in the Sierras and were highly sought after, and it was just in Iowa, the towns in Iowa and Montana, and Idaho, were just magnificent pieces of work, and a real talent with watercolor, which is very difficult for most of us to work with. But he had a gift. The man just had a wonderful gift, and I'm really glad that I got to expose him to so many people in the town. The gallery used to do a really good business, and it would probably do it again after the pandemic, after we're through this period of time. But it was nice seeing people be exposed to him as a local artist who had a great deal of skill. And I was really glad that I got to participate in some of that. I really am. It was nice. It was nice to be able to find somebody in town that people were not aware of, and bring them out and be able to have people come and go, oh my God, isn't this wonderful?
Maura Hahn, a very well-known artist in Long Beach, and she was in an exhibit at the Playhouse that I curated, and she took me over to talk to Cameron Briggs, whose father, this is his studio, or was his studio, and we just started talking, and he said, hey, how would you like to go over and see my dad's studio on Broadway? And I said, that'd be great. So then we went over there, and he said, he had alluded to the fact that maybe your group would like to use his studio as a gallery. And so we said, sure. And then we came, the Long Beach Creative Group, we had 7 members, we have 7 members, and we came over, and we were absolutely so impressed with the idea that we would have the opportunity to run a gallery here. It was almost as if he had just left. And there were all the things were in place, the easel, the paints. It was just quite a very moving experience, actually. And then we started talking to Cameron in here, and we felt that, Rod's spirit was in here, and we were very moved to be able to have the opportunity to use it as a gallery. Cameron has been our biggest supporter through the last 2 years, and we're very appreciative of that. We feel like we are, not only has he been a great benefactor, but we feel very honored to be able to protect the work that he has here.
I wanted to thank the Long Beach Creative Group and Marka and Donald and everyone involved for putting this exhibition together. And it's been our pleasure to have them utilize this space to have artists be able to showcase their work here. I think in that way my dad would be really pleased that his legacy is living on and giving back to the community, especially the community of artists here in Long Beach. I think that would make him really happy. And I want to thank the Long Beach Creative Group so much for putting this together and enabling the Long Beach community to see my father's artwork again. It really means a lot to me.